Hello everyone, it's Tom Smith here, and welcome to episode 4 of Blue Diamond Ranked. In this series, we look at all the different Blue Diamond films and look at the polls that I have posted up on our channel and seeing how you guys have voted and ranked them. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at the Computer Network and The Real Business, the Filmmaker films. And when we look at the first film, The Computer Network, and we see with 15 votes, 27% gave it an A, 13% gave it a B, 53% gave it a C, and 7% gave it a D, and 0% gave it an F. And when we do all the math here, the Computer Network finishes with an average score of 3.60. And honestly, this is about right where I figured it would end up scoring. I figured most of the votes would go for about a C, maybe a B. I was surprised that B was lower than A. I figured it would be most votes would go C, and then B, and then A, and then D, and then F. So I was actually kind of surprised to see more votes for A than B, since I think the film does struggle with the fact that we had to dub most of it because it was the last film we made before we had the audio recorder, and the camera was making really bad clicky noises. So the camera's audio is pretty much useless. So I really think we kind of lost out on... I think the film suffers, is what I'm trying to say, because it has to be dubbed so much. I think the story's pretty good. I think it definitely... I could make that film much better now with the equipment I have and be able to tell that story much better. But we did get a comment here from Anthony Fields who says, honestly, one of the most emotionally driven independent films I've ever seen. Which, thank you for your kind words. I'm glad you were able to enjoy it. As I've said, I think we could do better now with it, but at the time, it wasn't too bad. It definitely was a change-up for Blue Diamond, because at that point, everything we'd done was pretty much action-based at that point. So, doing something different was a little bit of a bold move for us, and I really think we really were trying something new, and it was of course a little bit inspired by actual events that were happening in my own life at that point. There was a lot of changing going on at that point in my life, so it kind of serves as a little bit inspired by a true story, you might say. A lot of stuff that was going on with me at the time. So definitely an interesting film. But now looking at The Real Business, its sequel that came out 3 years later, we've got 15 votes as well, and 73% gave it an A, 7% gave it a B, and 20% gave it a C, and 0% gave it a D and an F. And when we do all the math here, we will see that The Real Business finishes out with an average score of 4.53. Which, at the time of this episode, puts it into second place, right behind The Lost Scene 3 Covert Operations, and barely ahead of The Lost Scene 4 Choices. And then the Computer Network, unfortunately, is down in 12th place, just barely above The Price of Loyalty and below The Lost Scene 2. Which, I mean, the Computer Network, being that low, that's just how it goes sometimes, you know. I think it really does suffer from its technical issues. But The Real Business, being in second place, that, to me, really surprised me. I was like, wow. I know this film was length, but, it was a 20-minute film. It had to be 20 minutes at maximum. I literally pushed it to the maximum to be in a film festival. 2014. The 2014 Mizzou Valentine's Day Film Festival. We didn't win any awards with it. The next year, though, when we came back and we're in the 2015 Valentine's Day Film Awards, is when I won for The Pain of Regret. But The Real Business, was made literally with, I think, 2 weeks and within 2 weeks we made the film. It was very quick. I remember that. It was only like 2 or 3 days of filming that were actually used, so it was very short. 20 minutes. I think it tells a very interesting story. Patrick Stark, I think, steals the show as Flynn. It was really interesting. And then once again, it was dealing with some stuff that I had been going through as a filmmaker. And I think it does serve as a good sequel. And it's nice to see it's very well liked. I mean, it is the highest rated Blue Diamond film on IMDb right now currently as well. So seeing it in second place here is quite interesting. It means no matter where you go, it seems to be a very well-liked film, which is interesting because I didn't rank it that high when I was doing my own personal rankings, because I think it's good, but it's not great, in my opinion. I think, once again, I think we can tell a story very much like this better now, which is part of the reason why I want to make the final cut. Whether or not that film ever gets made, I do not know. It's not necessary to be made. George's story doesn't require a third film. I think a third film would be nice. But if for some reason we're not able to make the final cut, we're not losing anything. It's not like there was a cliffhanger or something like that. So, in the end, we'll play it by ear and see what happens. But I would like to make the final cut to really finally show a better way of doing this whole story. And really showing this... showing a story like this about this guy who makes movies and goes through a lot of struggles with doing that, I think would be better to be shown now with the kind of stuff we have. Also, a lot has changed, like with YouTube and stuff. A lot has changed. Even from what it was in 2011 to 2014 to now. If it's made in 2021, 7 years later, it could be a very interesting film just to talk about how much the world has changed in that short amount of time. So, we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. And we will see you all next time in our next episode, which we'll be looking at the martial law films. We'll see you then.